might be a great time, finally again, to be a member of the Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki team, because look at this. It's like retro time. They now are in sole possession of the red plate in both 250 West with Levi Kitchen and 250 East with Austin Forkner. This is well overdue for this team.
Weeds, they're back. There's no other way to put it. And it's hard to imagine that they would be having this much success without the starts really coming around. And I think that's the story within a story. They've figured out something with the motorcycle and their starts. And you look at Austin Forkner, his rebound to Detroit. You look at Levi Kitchen. He's been so consistent with the starts, which has allowed him to parlay that into good results. So you know there's been a lot of hard work behind the scenes, and it's finally showing up in the results column now.
Yeah, that team has always taken pride in building horsepower. So when they see those starts, you know Mitch Payton, the team owner, is very, very happy. Let's see if they can finally get another number one plate to hang on the door for that squad. In the 450 class, I feel like every week we have to talk about the same thing. We just keep adding new winners. We're up to 5 now in just 6 rounds.
Yeah, and I don't know where this number stops at because Eli Tomac hasn't gotten a win yet. And does one of the rookies, does Malcolm Stewart finally get his? Like, there are still riders that have to make that jump. And we're already at 5. Like, we're already near the average for a season, and we're only 6 races in. So if parity is your thing, you're having a heck of a 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't forget Jason Anderson, who was on Roxon's wheel the whole time. Flip a coin in a couple different directions at races this year, and Anderson ends up a winner. And I think what's also exciting for this is these are familiar names. We mentioned at the top of the show how popular it is to see Roxon win. In the 250 class, you've got, for the 250 division standards, old warhorses, Jordan Smith and RJ Hampshire trading blows, and that was a big bounce back for Hampshire to get back on the board and become a 2-time winner this year.
Yeah, he really needed that. And it wasn't a very typical race for RJ. He kind of waited them out, and he's usually one pushing the envelope there. So mistakes got him there. You know, Jordan Smith made a key mistake, actually 2 key mistakes there. So for RJ, it was good to see him show some poise and get back in this fight. And we have a true 3-way fight for that 250 West region.
Yeah, and then as we mentioned, Roxon, just the class of the field by far in the 450 class. And we'll get deeper into that with Fowler's facts later on in the show. By the way, I just want to say with Hampshire, I feel like Hampshire played that race perfectly. But you said watching very closely, there are still Hampshire moments out there.
Oh, he's still RJ, no question about it. But I think that's the key for him to go the pace he needs to go. And if you ask him, he's like, yeah, okay, I can back it down, but I'm not going to go fast enough to win races. So it's almost pick your poison, and you almost just have to take the good with the bad if he's going to be in that title fight. And it's a scary watch. You know, if there was an RJ cam each week, I think you might have to sign a waiver to be a part of that experience. But in the end, if he can rack up the wins and avoid some of the mistakes, or at least minimize them, that's the big thing, minimize them, maybe he can find a way to grab that red plate again.
Really exciting how that 250 season has transpired at the top. And then this developing story as well, we were hyped to see the 40-year-old, now almost 41-year-old Billy Laninovich trying Supercross again, and then he got into a main event, and now he's done it again. He did it through the LCQ, rode really well at Glendale.
Yeah, what a story. You know, we kind of broke this at San Francisco, talking about the win 20 years prior, and I think everybody's been watching and waiting ever since then to see if he could do this, and to be racing at 40 in the 250 class with what are, you know, let's just face it, a lot of kids out there. He's racing against teenagers, and I'm sure it has to be a harrowing experience at times, but he's getting it done. Dead last gate pick in the LCQ, gets into the main event, and yeah, I don't know what else you're looking for if you're looking for something or a guy to cheer for in this 250 West region. He's just out there for fun. He's not getting rich doing this. This is purely for fun and to live out a dream of making a comeback.
You see the hair coming out of the back of the helmet, though, you'd think he's one of the young kids out there. So maybe that's how he fits in. Okay, so our next hot topic, it involves Jett Lawrence. Anything involving Jett Lawrence is a hot topic, especially the things he says off of the racetrack. The riding really hasn't been a problem this year. He's back to sole possession of the points lead. We've been anticipating this big Jett Lawrence, Eli Tomac battle. Kind of got it for the podium, but he was tracking Eli down the entire time. And when he got there, Eli didn't put up much defense. So that wasn't much of a battle. But what is getting more attention again is what Jett said after the race, and this comes from the post-race press conference.
It was cool, it was cool to kind of follow him because, obviously nowadays it's not like the exact same as the beast as he used to be. but it's still Eli Tomac, so it's kind of cool to follow him.
So here's what I believe Jett was trying to do there, JT. He doesn't want to say this was a declarative, I am now better than Eli Tomac. I think he was trying to be humble and say, but I know this is not the Eli Tomac. This is not the Hall of Fame level beast mode Eli Tomac, who I passed for third. But JT, do you think anyone actually took it in that respectful of a way?
No, and unfortunately, Jett doesn't have any room for error in this department. There have been so many questionable comments over the last 6 or 8 months that everybody's ready to pounce on every word, and they're gonna take that and say that Jett's writing Eli off as over the hill. I don't think that's what he meant. I think he knows he's coming off an injury. He's working his way back to that excellence that we know that Eli can show us. But yeah, that's the unfortunate part of being in the spotlight is everybody's going to take what you say and twist it into their own narrative. And Jett's living that experience right now.
Yeah, he's not backing away from it. He just keeps doing this stuff all the time. It's entertaining for us to watch, no doubt about it. Like it or not, it definitely has people talking. And then there's less talking with others. There wasn't much to say as we go to the not category about our defending champion, Chase Sexton. We heard he had a crash during the week, and it could have been real bad, as in he might not have even raced Glendale. He did race, but in the end, really started dropping back late and barely scratched out a top 10.
Yeah, it's I don't think there's ever a good time for an injury. You know, thankfully he only had to race one race before he gets this much needed weekend off. But it was a true salvage job. You know, you could tell he didn't have the fire or intensity, and that's purely because he didn't have the grip strength, in my opinion. He's just trying to get through this, not lose the championship in Glendale, and then try to come back in Arlington and be his best self again. And we'll have to see. We'll see what the time frame is for that. But I do think it was a very good sign that he could still put in a top 10, kind of hang around with some of the elite riders in Glendale with, 13 days to rest going into Arlington. I think we'll see a much different Chase Sexton going in there.
Well, it could always be worse. Like this. Nate Thrasher, oh my, this is physics and gravity working in complete opposite of what a dirt bike racer wants. Oh.
Yeah. For Nate Thrasher, we've seen this type of crash far too many times, and it was a really difficult jump there. I went out in the race and tried to show how challenging it was, and he came up way short, right? Clipping it a little bit is dicey. He was far too short, and I'm sure he's relived that crash about 10 times over the last couple of days, but yeah, that is a far too common scene is to see Nate Thrasher riding off in a mule. Remember, at Anaheim 1, he had a crash, went over the bars, and did this same thing. Had to be carted off in the Alpine Stars Medic mule. So tough break for Thrasher because it's really been feast or famine for him this year.
Yeah, he went on social media on Sunday to say he had a concussion and a bone bruise. Expects to be back for the next West race, which isn't until late March in Seattle. So not season ending. But man, that was a scary one to watch. And honestly, it wasn't great for any of the Yamahas. We mentioned Jordan Smith had 2 incidents in the main event that cost him the points lead. We mentioned Tomac getting bumped off the podium by Jett. But honestly, I think the worst news of all to me was Cooper Webb, who had all this momentum. He could have been the best rider of the previous race at Detroit. Not the same this time for Webb, who was just getting shuffled back. I think he finished 7th, but this is not the Cooper Webb we've seen throughout the year. Tomac, we think, could get better. What about Webb and that performance in the desert?
Yeah, I'm just going to chalk it up to Glendale. His historical average finish is 7th. He finishes 7th on the night. He's never gotten a podium in Glendale. Even his championship years, his best finish was a 4th. So something about this track, I think it really comes down to the way the dirt is. And also you have to remember the whoops for Glendale are often very, very difficult. They weren't that difficult this particular weekend, but historically, I think that's what's caused him to have difficult results there in the past. So I'm not going to try to take too much from this one round. We've seen excellence from him in 2024, and I think we're going to get back to that when we go to Arlington.
Yeah, when I think of the skill set of Webb, when the track slows down and gets rough, that's where he excels. That track was fast from the beginning of the night to the end, and that hard dirt, I don't think, breaks down as much. And then his ability to switch lines doesn't really come into play. So got to hope after the break he comes back. He did win the Arlington Triple Crown race last year, and Arlington is the next race on our calendar. Could always be worse. What the heck is going on with Justin Barcia? This is trending worse each weekend, and we thought with each week he would start to get better.
Yeah, it's been interesting because last year he was one of the only riders who was really happy with that gas KTM. It's a very similar chassis to each other, but he was the one singing the praises of it in 2023. fast forward to 2024, and he seems like he's really struggling with that chassis. So these things are really fickle. They can change really quickly, but you kind of read between the lines in his social media comments, talk to him, off camera. And that's what seems to be the problem, is he is just not gelling with that gas at the moment. And we're 6 races in. He's got to figure this thing out quickly.
He was so happy with the bike last year. That's a red flag. It never lasts. It never lasts at this level. The bike was perfect. I'm like, bubble's going to burst at some point. Burst for 2024. Maybe Barcia can use the time to his advantage. We have an off weekend. Is that going to make a difference for anyone, JT?
Surely. A lot of riders will approach this differently. Chase Sexton, I think, will take time off. He's going to be purely trying to heal that hand. He'll do a lot of off motorcycle training, I'm sure. Eli Tomac, these guys are going to be hard at work. But some of the other riders who are really kind of in the zone right now, really excelling, they may take a couple of days off and try to regroup. So it's going to be situational for every rider. If you have some time to make up, you need to put the hammer down now. But if things are going really well, you may want to relax a little bit and let your body kind of use this time to recover. So it's not going to be the same week off for everybody. I just think you have to be very aware and assess the situation that individually you are in.
Hi folks, Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.